The voters were clear. The status quo across the waterfront of issues is unacceptable. Reform is the spirit, the goal, the objective. I am responsible for leading that effort, and I will do that with the City Council as my partner in achieving that.
Reform is the spirit, and unacceptable status quo, leadership, the new millennium clout. Welcome to Off 63rd with Garrard McClendon. We have a mayor-elect, and his name is Rahm Emanuel. He brings his transition team and reform, but is it a baton exchange from the daily legacy, new aldermen, and a 40% voter turnout as we race to the top? Be for real. This is Off 63rd, Chicago, from the beach to the burbs. Welcome to Off 63rd, but hey, if you're about to get in your car, join us on 89.3 FM and on the web at www.wkkc.fm. It's finally over. We have a new mayor in Chicago. Despite questions on residency, consensus, and platforms, Mayor-elect Rahm Emanuel's campaign was commanding and unwavering, giving him close to 60% of the vote in Chicago. But in 3 months, the tires hit the pavement as the transition team is selected and reform is touted. New mayor and some new aldermen in a brand new or refurbished Chicago. Give me a call tonight. Join the conversation with your opinions at 773-487-3630. That's 773-487-3630. Joining me tonight to talk about our mayor-elect, the council, and transitions, Steve Bogira, associate editor, the Chicago Reader. We also have Mary Mitchell, Chicago Sun-Times columnist and senior pastor at New Life Covenant Ministries, Reverend Wilfredo de Jesús. Welcome to Off 63rd, you three.
Thank you for the invite.
We appreciate you coming to the show. We've got a mayor-elect now, but first, I got to get your opening remarks on the 95th Street Red Line. Rahm Emanuel's first stop out of the gate after he gets elected, he goes to 95th in the Red Line on the Ryan. I mean, what kind of a statement is that? I'm going to start with Mary first. She's jumping at the bit here. Then I'm going to go to two other gentlemen here. What's up with that, Mary Mitchell?
Well, you got to say he should have went to 95th because and been thankful and grateful and passed out all kind of treats because it was the black vote that really put him over and kept him out of a runoff. He got 55% of the vote, but in every black ward, he stacked up between 50 and 40% of the vote. And that's amazing because he didn't really have to work very hard for it. Yeah. He didn't go to community forums, you know, he didn't do a whole lot of that kind of thing. He went to 95th Street, he went to the Red Line, he shook some hands, and voila, people came and supported him.
You know, it's Steve Bogira from the Chicago Reader. What do you think about his first stop out? You know, a lot of people will say, well, maybe he'll go to the north side, maybe he'll go out west first, or maybe he'll congratulate some of his business partners. You know, yes, we can. But he goes to 95th, the heart of the black community in Chicago. You've written articles on this. What do you think, Steve Bogira?
Well, I think Mary's right. He owed a lot to the black community. The only question is whether he was going to go to a grocery store or an L-stop because he likes to hang out at grocery stores too. Yeah. I was thinking he doesn't want to be the man on 5, he wants to be the man on aisle 5. But I think it was a good move, and I think it's important that he continue that. I think that the African-American community has been shut out a lot of times in Chicago politics, and we'll see if it's just politics or whether he's for real.
It's a good point. Reverend de Jesús, 95th and the Dan Ryan. When we're looking at Gary Chico's campaign, Del Valle's campaign, and the imploding Carol Mosley Braun, as Mary mentioned, as well as Steve, he's congratulating black people. He's saying thank you for this move. Why not go to another community, though, Reverend?
Yeah, I mean, he was right to go there, 95th. I mean, had over 9,000 votes in that community in the 21st Ward. He was the black consensus candidate. So he had to go there. it was the black that put him into office.
Yeah.
So he owes it to them.
You know what? This is deep. I want to go right down the line here with predictions. What was your prediction last week, Reverend?
Well, I thought it'd be a runoff for sure. We would have a runoff. At least we needed a runoff in our city. We haven't seen anything like this in 20-something years.
Yeah.
So to see this, what happened yesterday or a few days ago, it's just really heartbreaking.
Yeah, interesting. Heartbreaking. We're going to get back to why it's heartbreaking. No, I'm going to stay on you right now.
Yeah,
why is
fine.
it heartbreaking? I mean,
Well,
the people have spoken, Reverend Wilfredo de Jesus.
Well, I don't know if the people have spoken. You're talking about 40% of
Right.
the voter registration came out.
Yeah.
So the entire city has not spoken. Why? I truly believe there's just a spirit of apathy. And we don't have a new mayor. It's just a new name. This is the same we're going to have the next 4 years is what we're having right now.
Oh,
It's a new name. It's a new name.
The gears and the wheels continue.
Yeah.
The giant capital M, the machine. Mary Mitchell, what do you think? I mean, he brings up some great points here. The people have spoken, but they really haven't?
Well, I think the people who have a voice and know they have a voice, they spoke. Okay, they got up, they got off their behinds, and they went to the poll. What's surprising here, as I said in the beginning, is that so many of them embraced a Rahm Emanuel mayoral candidacy without him doing much for it. Because see, when you don't earn it, think about it. Mayor Daley went through several election cycles before he was able to amass that kind of support out of the black community. He had to prove himself. He had to, he had to put up some street lights. He had to open up some stores. He had to fix some roads. He had to do some things and pave some alleys. He had to do some things in the African American community before he got the support. All Rahm seemed to have to be able to do or have to do is let people know I hung out at the White House. I helped President Barack Obama. I was there for him, and that was enough for people to embrace his
You know what? Okay, so
campaign.
The good Reverend says that he's disappointed and he was hoping for a runoff. Did you think there'd be a runoff, Mary Mitchell?
I absolutely thought there was going to be a runoff.
Between?
I thought it was going to be a runoff between Rahm Emanuel and Gary Chico. And the reason for that is because, look at the numbers. Latino voters voted for Gary Chico in large numbers.
Big time.
Large numbers. So if you have that, and Carol Moseley Brown could have pulled her part, which is gotten a larger slice of the African American vote, we would be in a runoff. And why is a runoff good? A runoff is good because then you can get down to the issues, but also any candidate that wants your vote, they got to give you something.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And now, if you get it without giving somebody something, well, why should he come back later?
The
we hope
runoffs-
that they'll do the right thing, but who knows?
The runoff would separate, you're right, the wheat from the tare. If we use a biblical example here. Steve Bogira, looks like we've got consensus almost here with two people saying, hey, there should have been a runoff. What do you think? Who did you think would win, or did you think there'd be a runoff?
Well, I didn't think there would be a runoff because it's hard to fight $12 million. Actually, $12 million was just through the end of 2010. So it's hard to fight that Hollywood money. And it really gets your message out. I think it's true, the point of apathy, but that's not unusual. Poor people don't vote as much as people who are better off. Yeah, turnout was 41%, but in the 19th ward, which led the city, 74%. 19th ward is Mount Greenwood.
Right,
and,
well, those are the officers who are
Morgan
voting
Park
against.
And Beverly, right. It's
They voted
firefighters
against,
and cops and
Emanuel.
city workers
Yeah.
and homeowners. Meanwhile, the turnout in the 16th ward, Englewood and New City, back of the yards, Gage
Well,
Park,
people are getting killed.
29%. 29%. So, I think it makes it hard for people for politicians to pay attention to those people.
Almost a spirit of hopelessness. Interesting, hard for politicians to pay attention to those people. I'm coming to you here shortly, Reverend De Jesus. Mary Mitchell, once more, then I got to go to phones.
Okay.
Did you have a comment?
No.
You know what, Reverend, you had a comment.
Well, when you take away the hope of the people, why go vote? You come in here with the President of the United States, a former President of the United States, $15 million in your pocket. People are saying this is the same thing. Why am I even going to go vote?
Let me see if I've got Cornice on the phone lines. Cornice, you're on off 63rd. You got a comment?
Okay. This whole election was already planned. It's planned from the White House, from Daley. because when Dale said that he wasn't going to run, everybody want to run. I'm upset with the black people. They should have got behind Carrie Moses a little bit more than what they did. And one thing that I didn't like, just because she made a statement about someone on drugs, the news media, they played that all day. And a lot of black people, they said, I'm not going to vote for her because she said this. Everybody said things that they don't mean.
But
if we don't get behind black people when they running for mayor, this city ain't never going nowhere.
Wow, thank you so much for your call. But you know what? I got to talk to you right now, and then I'm going to unleash this forum on you. First of all, there was no black consensus candidate. That's the first thing. And then, as you mentioned, that may have the black consensus candidate was Rahm Emanuel. The second thing is, how can you get behind someone who's going to call someone else a crack addict on television? Of course, they maybe ran it too much, but that's not the point. The third thing was that Operation Push secret meeting where it's like, let's come up with a consensus candidate, but you don't invite Van Pelt Watkins and Doc Walls to the table that night? I mean, that just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
Right. Well, it was all bad. Okay?
It was
no
bad.
doubt about it.
Bad, Mary.
They started off wrong. They shouldn't have had to go through that process. And as I said in the beginning, and I said in my columns, that no other group has to come up with a consensus candidate. You didn't see Gary Chico and Miguel Duvalier saying, oh, it's going to be a consensus. Right. They both stayed in the race. In this case, people are so busy trying to promote themselves. It was never about the African American community. It was about individuals, about personality. It was about West Side and South Side. It was about class. All of those things came into play. And so therefore, you spent all the time fighting internally and behind the closed doors. Nobody got behind the one candidate. And she was frustrated.
It's very frustrating. And let me come to you, Steve, when it comes to the demographics of the city. Now, you're looking at your article here from the Reader. When you talk about the migration, African Americans from the South, specifically Mississippi, coming to Chicago and where they decide to plant. And when you look at the fact that there probably, as Mary Mitchell mentioned in her article, there is no black power base in Chicago. What do you think is the cause of that? If there are more African Americans living here now, Steve, what does your research tell us in terms of black people in Chicago not willing to vote for a black candidate?
Well, I think a lot of black leaders have felt that they needed segregation in order to get elected. But I don't think that's a good enough reason for segregation. And I think it also marginalizes the people who do get elected because they don't have to form coalitions with whites and with Latinos. So I think that segregation, which of course was a system set up by whites and furthered by whites, has come home to hurt African Americans. It hurts us all.
You know what? And this is interesting because I wrestle with this from November until Election Day. I'm like, wow, when everyone says that race doesn't matter in Chicago, we're seeing that it matters on an intense level. Was the Latino vote split? Reverend, talk to me.
Well, I mean the Hispanic vote, went with Gary Chico for the most part. Right. He won 10 of the wards. Yeah. So they were there. We could have had a historical moment in our city to elect either another African American mayor or Hispanic for the very first time. But it is what Chicago is divide and conquer. How do we divide the Hispanic? How do we divide the African Americans and then conquer them?
Yeah. And here's something no one's talking about, but they need to talk about, is understanding why didn't the African Americans, if they felt Carrie Mosley Brown's campaign was so horrible that she imploded, she fell apart, why didn't they gravitate toward Gary Chico's campaign? Right. At least with the thought in mind that there'll be a runoff. Yeah. They didn't gravitate toward Gary Chico, and that's a problem, because where is the coalition? Right. There should have been some kind of coalition building, and right now when people talk about there is coalition building, there was no coalition building.
Let's look at this, and give me a call. 773-487-3630 is the number, 773-487-3630.